It started with a single sentence, a throwaway line in a post-game interview that was supposed to be about a loss. But instead, it lit a fuse that burned down the entire narrative of the 2025 season. Pure and ethical basketball. This is what Victor Wembanyama called it. But when you read between the lines, he wasn't talking about what he played. He was talking about what the Oklahoma City Thunder don't play. Because right now, there is a war happening in the NBA. On one side, you have the rulebook, written to protect shooters, encourage scoring, and punish contact. On the other side, you have a team that looked at those rulebooks and realized something terrifying. They realized that if you break the rules enough times, the referees actually stop calling them. This isn't a story about good defense. This is a story about a system exploit, a psychological loophole that has turned the youngest team in the league into a defensive nightmare that physically shouldn't exist. Are they cheating? Or are they just the first team in 20 years to realize that the rules are just suggestions? Today, we are opening the case file on the most unethical experiment in NBA history. Let's look at the data, because usually numbers don't lie. But in OKC's case, the numbers look suspicious. If we plot every high-volume scorer in the league based on how often they drive versus how often they get to the line, we see a pattern. Most players exist here, in this cluster of reality. And then, there is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He is averaging nearly 10 free throws a game. And to his critics, this chart is proof of a conspiracy. Chris Finch called it a friendly whistle. The internet calls it stat padding. But if you stop the analysis there, you miss the actual trick. Because the unethical narrative isn't just about SGA getting calls. It's about what happens on the other side of the floor. Look at this Timberwolves game just recently. Finch got ejected arguing calls, but his team actually shot 17 more free throws than OKC. So if the refs were rigging it for the Thunder, they did a terrible job. The special whistle isn't about free throw discrepancy. It's about contact threshold. And this is where the story gets dark. We need to talk about the Caruso Paradox. In the normal basketball universe, if you put a 6'5" guard in the post against Nikola Jokic, one of the most dominant offensive engine since Shaquille O'Neal, that will always end up in a basket. It's simple physics. Mass times acceleration equals 2 points. But watch this. Watch the hands. Watch the hips. Watch the off-arm. TV announcers break this down as tenacious post-denial. But Aaron Gordon had a different description. He said, "They are fouling him throughout the game." And he's right. By the strict definition of the 2025 NBA rulebook, this is a foul. This is a foul. And this is definitely a foul. So why aren't the referees calling it? This is the genius of the OKC defensive scheme. They have realized that referees operate on a quota system. A ref is willing to call 20 fouls in a game, maybe 25, 30, but they are not willing to call 60 fouls in a game. If Alex Caruso fights over a screen and grabs the jersey once, whistle. But if Alex Caruso grabs the jersey on every single possession for 48 minutes, the referee physically cannot blow the whistle every time without destroying the product on television. So the abnormal becomes normal. The bar for a foul moves, and suddenly a 6'5" guard can lock up a 7-foot center purely because he is willing to commit a foul every 14 seconds. We were told that this era is dead. We were told the Jordan rules were illegal. Go back to the 90s, the Detroit Pistons didn't just play defense, they assaulted people. They forced the league to intervene, and in 2004, the NBA cracked down. They prioritized freedom of movement. They banned the hand check. They paved the way for the Curry era, the Harden era, the offensive explosion. We spent 2 decades believing that you couldn't touch a star player without sending them to the line. But OKC has exposed that as a lie. Look at the side by side. The way Dort defends Luka Doncic today is functionally identical to how the bad boy Pistons defended Jordan. The handsy off-ball pressure that Chris Finch complained about, that is just 90s basketball resurrected in modern jerseys. The glitch is not that OKC is cheating. It's that they realized the NBA's freedom of movement crusade was a bluff. The league wants scoring, but they want competitive games more. And if you play physical enough, the league will let you get away with it. So let's go back to Wemby's quote. Is this ethical? If your definition of ethical is following the spirit of the 2004 rulebook, then no. It's criminal. They are mugging people in broad daylight. But if your definition of ethical is doing whatever it takes to win within the constraints of what the referees will actually call, then this is the smartest basketball we have ever seen. The rest of the league is playing a game of skill. OKC is playing a game of attrition. They are betting that they can foul you more times than the refs can blow the whistle. And right now, that bet is paying off. History doesn't remember who played nice. History remembers who held the trophy. The bad boys were hated. The 2015 Warriors were called a jump shooting fluke. And now, the unethical Thunder are the villains of the NBA. They might be ruining the game for the purists. They might be gaming the system, but they found a glitch. And until the NBA decides to patch it, everyone else is just fighting for second place. Is this genius, or is it ruining the sport?